Somebody once asked Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, "Maharishi, why don't you perform miracles like Christ did?" And his response was, "What do you mean? I do perform miracles all the time. You just don't notice." And that was the end of that conversation. I'm realizing now how Eric Dollard's analog computer works. I don't have to speculate anymore. I don't have to guess at it. There's only one way it can work. By definition, based on what electrical engineers already know. So I'm not coming up with any new information. Okay, here it is. The definition of a generator, no, let's start with a load. The definition of a load is positive unity power factor, okay? The definition of a generator is negative unity power factor. And so what happens is, when you've got, what is Eric Dollard's analog computer? And it doesn't matter whether it's LMD modality or TEM modality, you know, longitudinal magnetodielectric orientation or transverse electromagnetic orientation, doesn't matter. The explanation works for both. Because all he's doing with a single module, if we just take one module at a time and just look at that, is it's modeling a transmission line, compressing its length so that you can put it on the bench and study it. And that's what I've been doing for the last, on and off for the last 4 years, besides studying other circuit archetypes. But in this case, what goes on between the two wires and the empty space between the two wires is very interesting, because it happens regardless of whether or not we have a free energy situation or not. It doesn't matter. It happens all the time. The question isn't whether or not do we ever have free energy, or does free energy exist, or you know, or does it defy the laws of physics? The question, the proper question to ask is, does it happen at all? Yes, it happens all the time. And the reasoning is thus: it has to, because the wires have to be interacting in a dialectical fashion all the time anyway, because that's their relationship. And the dynamism of the situation is such that they have to. They don't just sit there and ignore each other. And what they're doing is this: they're each sending a wave of something simultaneously, and it leaves one wire while the other wave of something leaves the other wire, and they cross in the middle and they hit their target, the opposite wire, at the same time, and they go back and forth. Now the something is what's the telling feature. One wave is current, the other wave is voltage. Now if the waves, so what you've got going there is negative unity power factor. It's generating electricity. It's generating wattage. It's generating reactive power in the most extreme sense of the term. Meanwhile, you've got unity power factor, or maybe not, more like 90 degrees, going down the wire. But then, you know, once in a while they have to have capacitor stations to realign the phase angle, because it gets out of alignment. And it better not. So then, you see, so eventually the net result has to equal out to a positive unity power factor down the length of the transmission wire. But in between them, it's negative unity power factor. And that's basically the definition of the analog computer that Eric Dollard showed us. You know, a pair of coils and a pair of capacitors, each facing off on opposite sides of each other in quadrature. That's basically it. That's how to define how that operates. Now, whether or not you're generating electricity overall is a question of the net result. You know, what's the total? Once each cancels the other, what are you left with? Is it over unity, under unity? Does it pulse? Does it do this? Does it do that? Does it average? Is its average equal to the load? Because that's what you want it to be, in order for that free energy concept to power a load. So that's what it comes down to, and that's what balancing the load means on the utility grid. They have to make sure that those two forces are equal. And interestingly enough, due to the fact that the United States Treasury went bankrupt in 1920 and had to reorganize in 1921, they now all bankers keep a double ledger accounting system in which one column is your assets, the other column is your liabilities. You total them up, and at the end of business day at midnight, they have to zero each other out, or the banker has to make up the difference out of his pocket one way or another, or he loses his license to be part of the Federal Reserve banking system. That's what there has to be no money in circulation. All assets and all liabilities have to equal them, have to neutralize each other if you totaled everything up, so that nobody owes anybody anything and nobody has any wealth. Unless, of course, it's real property or something. If you can prove you really own it, which is not the case in most circumstances. When it comes to cars and real estate, nobody owns anything except the county in which you reside. So, anywho, that's a little off topic, but it shows that the way money functions is not too much unlike the way to study free energy. But anyway, that's what goes on in Eric Dollard's analog computer, and it happens all the time. So free energy is happening all the time, and thermodynamics is happening all the time. It's just a question of which overrides the other, or overwhelms the other, maybe is a better way to put it.